A business owner reached out to me some time ago. Their email accounts had just gotten compromised and money was stolen from one of their online accounts. I got to work immediately, secured their emails, upgraded their devices, and put things in place to ensure that nothing like that happened again. This was their review after working with me, and she recommended me to all of her colleagues. Now, what happened wasn't a sophisticated Hollywood style cyber attack. There wasn't a hacker in a dark room going through a whole line of code to try to hack into the systems. The attack succeeded because of small security gaps that went unnoticed. And over time, the bad actor could exploit it. And that's what I see throughout many businesses today. Hi, my name is Isaias Burnette, founder of Burnette Tech Solutions, and I help business owners take control of their technologies to drive growth instead of it slowing them down. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 3 email security mistakes that I see businesses make over and over again. The scary part is that most business owners don't know that these issues exist in the environment until it's too late, until something goes wrong. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what to look for to see if these things exist in your own environment. Let's get into it. Mistake number 1: too many people have access. If you are using Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace or some other email provider, you need to grant access to set up different accounts, to connect applications, or to set up some level of resources. You need to know who has access and who should not have access. If you're running a business, naturally, you have employees. So employees should have a level of access, either to make certain level of changes or to get access to certain resources, be it based on their role or some responsibility that they have. You have various contractors. Contractors typically work and provide some form of service. And to do that service, sometimes they do need access to your email environment so that they can do whatever task or whatever job that you've hired them to do. You have various vendors. A lot of vendors connect directly to your email environment to do certain automations or to help set up whatever service that they are providing. So, all this access, if it's necessary, then good, it should remain. But so many times I have audited and looked at different environments, and I see that there are still accounts from former staffs. Now, if you are letting go an employee, or you typically call that offboarding, there are certain steps or recommended checklist items that you go through to ensure that the account is no longer in use. But I've seen several environments where former employees still have access to that email environment. I've also seen where you have contractors that are no longer being used for their service, and they too still have access to certain environments. I recall when I was working on a project for a particular client, it was an ad hoc client. So they would call anytime we had to do some work for them. And when we finished do that particular work, we deleted every password, every access that we had. Some months later they called and they asked us to do something else, and they said, well, just log in using this password. It didn't change. And we told them, hey, we no longer have that password. We do not store passwords that you give us for these one-time projects or these one-time engagements, right? But a lot of contractors don't always operate that way. So expired contractors, if they no longer need access to that environment, remove them. And similarly for vendors as well. If there are any old vendors that no longer need access to certain environments, they too should be removed. The key thing is, does every account still need access? If you're going through your email environment, ask yourself that question. Does every account still need access? So that's mistake number 1. Mistake number 2 is thinking a password is enough. So, what do I mean by that? Typically, you would have business owners creating sometimes strong, complex passwords, and they use that one password for all their applications, right? And in their mind, sometimes the password is strong, the password is complex. So, because it is strong, because it is complex, then, it's more than 12 characters, a threat actor cannot figure it out. Well, in this day of AI, in this day of AI models that are getting better and better and better every single year, your passwords, our passwords are not enough, right? Strong, complex password is simply not enough. In the realm of security, we use something called multi-factor authentication, and it revolves around three things mainly: something you know, something you have, and something you are. A strong complex password falls under something you know. So you know that password, whatever that complex password is. But to be more secure, you need to add in the other factors. And that's what we call it multi-factor authentication. So multi-factor authentication is you add in something you have, or you're adding something you are. Something you have is a phone. So if you have a phone and you have an MFA app on your phone, you will typically get a 6-digit code and you enter it into whatever platform you're using to log into. Something you are is your fingerprint or your face ID. So when you're dealing with your email environment, ensure that you don't only have the password, the something you know. Add something you have, or something you are. And in the best scenario, you add all three: something you know, a password, something you have, a phone, and something you are, something like a fingerprint or a face ID. The more factors, the harder it is for someone to impersonate you. If they get your password, then they will not be able to also have your phone or have your fingerprint and your face ID so that they can get access. And threat actors are being more and more sophisticated. When you're dealing with passwords, what I've seen as well is a lot of business owners make their password something that is, quite frankly, easily guessable. It is something to do with their business. It is something to do with where they're from. It's something to do with their area of expertise or something like that. So whenever you're making a password, do not make it easily guessable. Use a password generator to generate a complex password, and then you store it into something secure like a password management tool. Google has one built in. But the point is, the more factors, the harder it is to impersonate you. A password is not enough. So that's mistake number 2. The third mistake is leaving your domain unprotected. So I'm going to get a little bit technical, but you don't have to remember all of this technicality. So a domain is a point of record that you need to identify that you are the owner of that point of record. So a domain name server and their domain providers, they give you a point of record that shows that this person is responsible or owning or has bought this particular domain. Now, when you have bought that particular domain, you need to add certain guardrails. You need to add certain mechanisms to ensure that that domain is used by you and will continue to be used by you. And these are what you call text records. And there are free text records that your domain requires so that it remains protected. So there's something called the SPF record, and that is simply who is allowed to send, right? So if you're using Google, Google will give you an SPF record. If you're using Microsoft, Microsoft will give you an SPF record. So who is allowed to send from your domain, example.com or burnettech.com, the SPF record shows where the email is coming from. Your DKIM record is a record that proves that the message wasn't altered, right? That something did not come in and change the message along the way. And then finally, you have something called a DMARC record. It tells the receiving system what to do if the check fails. So if it does not meet the requirements, then what do you do? Do you quarantine? Do you reject it? Do you still make it go through? That's what a DMARC record is. So as I said, you don't have to remember these things. proceed. But just remember this. If you have a domain, whatever your business domain is, like mine is burnettech.com, ensure that your domain has an SPF record, a DKIM record, and a DMARC record. Does your domain have the protection it needs? If you don't have it, then you are making your online identity or the mechanism that you use to send out emails and communication, right? You're making it vulnerable for somebody to hijack it or for somebody to impersonate you and send emails like they are sending it as yourself and they're not really you. So the free email security mistakes that I see businesses make: one, too many people have access. Do a review, audit, just ensure that the people that have access to your email environment are the right ones. Two, thinking a password is enough. Verify that the access to your systems via email, it is backed not just by a password, but by an MFA, a multi-factor authentication. And third, confirm that your domain has all the necessary protections, specifically SPF, DKIN, and DMARC protections. If you fix these three things, you'll be ahead of many, many small businesses. If you're not too sure where to start, book a free IT assessment at burnettech.com. We'll take a look at your environment and help you identify risk before it becomes a problem. If you want a more hands-off approach, at Burnette Tech Solutions, we take control of businesses' IT environments end to end. You build your business on your expertise. Our job is to ensure that technology never gets in the way. I'll see you in the next video.